At the southeastern edge of North America, the Florida Peninsula stretches into warm, subtropical waters.
Along its sunlit coastline, white beaches, shallow lagoons, and mangrove-lined inlets form a place where wildlife and human life often meet at the water's edge.
Beneath these warm, shallow waters lives one of Florida's most gentle giants. The Florida manatee, a slow-moving marine mammal, spends much of its day drifting through lagoons and feeding across quiet beds of seagrass. In the right conditions, Florida manatees do not always travel alone. Here, in calm and sheltered water, many gather together, resting quietly and conserving energy in one of the safest places along the coast. Much of a manatee's life is spent feeding. In these shallow waters, a mother moves slowly across the seagrass while her calf stays close beside her, watching and learning how to survive in a world shaped by patience.
Few would ever guess that the manatee's closest living relative is the elephant. That connection is more than a strange fact. Like elephants, manatees are slow, social, and shaped by memory. But instead of crossing dry land, their world became the water.
Long before the manatee became a creature of quiet lagoons, its ancestors still carried the memory of life on land. More than 50 million years ago, early Sirenians were four-legged, semi-aquatic mammals living at the edge of an ancient sea. For all their size, manatees are remarkably gentle animals. At times, their calm curiosity can bring them surprisingly close to people, creating moments that feel almost impossibly tender. In Florida, the wild is never quite as distant as it seems. Two manatees pass quietly through the clear water, unhurried, unafraid, turning a simple morning into a memory that may last a lifetime.
Yet, even after a lifetime in the water, manatees remain mammals. And every journey beneath the surface must eventually return to a single breath. In Florida's calm, shallow lagoons, they rise slowly, sometimes alone, and sometimes together. There is no sudden leap, no great burst of spray, only a quiet movement toward the light, a brief breath at the surface, and then a gentle descent back into the water below. Even while resting, this ancient rhythm continues. For the manatee, life moves between two worlds: the peaceful shelter beneath the surface, and the air above that keeps it alive. The manatee's world moves slowly, but the coast around it does not. In these shallow waterways, speed can arrive without warning. Boats travel through the same narrow channels, and an animal that rarely rushes may have little time to escape. Even when the water appears peaceful, danger can be harder to see. As seagrass disappears, the feeding grounds that sustain them vanish with it. Cold weather can drain the warmth from their bodies, while harmful algal blooms can turn familiar water into a hidden threat. For an animal shaped by patience, survival now depends on a coastline, changing faster than it can. But the manatee is only one part of Florida's coastal story. Beyond the quiet lagoons, the coast opens into another world. Here, coral rises from the seafloor, and flashes of color move between the reef, each creature finding its place in a living underwater community. Beyond the reef, wide meadows of seagrass spread across the shallows. For a passing green turtle, they offer both shelter and a quiet place to feed beneath the Florida sun. Across Florida's shallow flats, another quiet life moves almost without a sound. The southern stingray drifts low over the seabed, following sandy channels through thick meadows of seagrass. When temperatures begin to fall, the manatee faces a different kind of danger. Its body is built for warmth, and prolonged cold can quickly become life-threatening. As winter approaches, many leave the open coast behind, moving inland through rivers, channels, and quiet estuaries, in search of the warm water refuges that can keep them alive. For these slow-moving animals, migration is not a spectacle of speed, but a quiet journey shaped by survival. The journey may continue for days, and for some, even weeks. Along Florida's Atlantic coast, a seasonal migration can cover nearly 300 kilometers, while the longest recorded journeys have carried individuals more than 800 kilometers. At last, the water begins to change. The cold current gives way to the steady warmth of a sheltered refuge. Here, the journey slows. The travelers gather in safety until Florida's coastal waters become warm again. For now, the herd can rest quietly, suspended between sleep and breath, until the changing season calls them onward once again. Our journey with the Florida manatees ends here. If this story brought you closer to the ocean, a like and subscribe would help us continue creating more wildlife documentaries. And if there is a marine animal you would like to see in a future episode, leave your suggestion in the comments below. Thank you for watching Deep Dark Ocean. We'll see you in the next journey.